You know, you're really lucky. I only have a shower. And sometimes I love to take bubble baths.
Really?
Yeah.
You in a bubble bath? Oh, I always pictured you in the shower.
One minute, she was the beloved star of a #1 show. The next, she was being escorted off the lot after passing out from her unhealthy habits. This wasn't a plot line. It was the dark reality for many sitcom actors. These shows looked perfect, but they were hiding some of the biggest scandals in Hollywood history. One day at a time.
Have you heard all those horns honking outside?
Yep,
And those guys driving by whistling?
I have.
It's embarrassing. I gotta stop working out with the shades up.
Let's start with a show that completely changed the game in the 1970s, One Day at a Time. Today, seeing a show about a single mom raising her kids is pretty normal, but back in 1975, it was a huge deal. The series centered on Ann Romano, a recently divorced mother who moves to Indianapolis with her 2 teenage daughters to start a new life. The show was a sensation because it felt real. It wasn't all silly jokes. It talked about serious family problems, money struggles, and the challenges of being a working woman. It was smart, funny, and millions of families gathered to watch it every week. The 2 daughters were total opposites. There was the responsible, good-natured Barbara, played by Valerie Bertinelli, and then there was the rebellious, free-spirited older sister, Julie, played by Mackenzie Phillips. Mackenzie was Hollywood royalty. Her father was John Phillips, the famous leader of the 60s folk rock group The Mamas and the Papas. With her cool, edgy vibe, Mackenzie was perfect for the part of Julie. She quickly became one of the biggest teen idols of her generation. Her face was on the cover of every teen magazine, and she was the girl everyone wanted to be like. But the fame and the pressure that came with it were incredibly intense for someone so young. You see, behind the cool girl image, Mackenzie was hiding a very serious personal battle. She had gotten involved in some extremely unhealthy habits, relying on powerful substances to deal with the stress of stardom. At first, it was something she could hide, but as time went on, it started to spiral out of control. Her behavior on set became erratic. Some days she would show up hours late for filming, and other days she wouldn't show up at all. The thing nobody tells you is that when she was there, she would often forget her lines or slur her words, making it impossible for her co-stars to do their scenes. The producers and her TV mom, Bonnie Franklin, were heartbroken. They tried everything they could to help her. They talked to her, they gave her warnings, and they pleaded with her to get help, but her problems were too powerful. In 1980, the situation reached its absolute breaking point. During a rehearsal in front of the entire cast and crew, Mackenzie Phillips collapsed on the set. It was a terrifying moment that everyone had been dreading. The producers knew they couldn't ignore the problem any longer. They fired her from the show, giving her a 6-week break to go away and get clean. She did return, but suddenly her unhealthy patterns started all over again. A year later, she was fired for a second and final time. The show had to go on without one of its main stars. They explained her sudden disappearance by saying that her character, Julie, had gotten married and moved away to start a new family. It was a deeply sad ending to her time on the show and a dark shadow cast over a series that had brought so much light to so many people. A star being fired for her off-screen troubles was a massive scandal. But on another hit show, a popular actress was let go for a very different reason, a reason that seems totally unbelievable and unfair today. To a different world.
Hello?
Daddy!
Who's this?
Dad?
Are you in jail?
No!
In the 1980s, one show ruled television, and that show was The Cosby Show. It was more than just a sitcom. It was a cultural event. Every Thursday night, America tuned in to watch the warm and funny Huxtable family. The show was a ratings giant, and every character was a beloved star. One of the most popular was the effortlessly cool and stylish second daughter, Denise Huxtable, played by the actress Lisa Bonet. She was a fashion icon and a role model for a whole generation of young women. She was so incredibly popular that in 1987, the network decided to give her her very own show. It was a spin-off called A Different World, and it followed Denise as she left the family nest in Brooklyn and headed off to Hillman College, a fictional historically black university in Virginia. The show was an instant smash hit. It was funny, it was smart, and it gave viewers a look into a world they had never seen on TV before. Lisa Bonet, as the star, was the heart and soul of the series. Her quirky, free-spirited personality was the main reason millions of people tuned in. But while her professional life was soaring, her personal life was about to cause a massive earthquake behind the scenes. Lisa fell in love with a charismatic rock star named Lenny Kravitz. They were a huge celebrity couple, and soon they had some happy news to share. They were expecting their first child. This was a joyous moment for the young couple, but for the powerful man in charge of her show, Bill Cosby, it was a complete disaster. You see, Bill Cosby had built an entire empire on a very specific brand of wholesome, clean-cut family values. His shows had a strict moral code, and he had total control over them. In his mind, the character of Denise Huxtable, a young and unmarried college student, absolutely could not be pregnant. He believed it would tarnish the perfect image of the Huxtable family and send the wrong message to the show's audience. What many overlooked is that this wasn't just a creative opinion, it was an order. A decision was made behind closed doors. At the end of the first season, Lisa Bonet was dismissed from her own hit show. The official reason given to the public was creative differences. But everyone in Hollywood knew the truth. She was let go simply because she was starting a family. It was a shocking and ruthless move. The show would go on to have a long and successful run with a new cast, but the cold way its original star was pushed out remains one of the darkest secrets of that era. Being pushed out for starting a family is awful. But for the young stars of our next show, the problems weren't about being fired. Instead, they were about what happened to the massive fortune they helped create. 3. The Brady Bunch.
Oh, Jan, did you put these awards of mine in the closet? What if I did? Well, why would you do a thing like that? Because I felt like it, that's why.
Here's the story of a lovely lady, a man named Brady, and a whole lot of secrets. When the Brady Bunch first aired in 1969, it was the perfect antidote to a turbulent time. The show was pure sunshine. It was about a blended family with 6 kids who, despite their minor squabbles over things like sharing a bathroom or a broken vase, always loved and supported each other. They were the ideal American family, and for 5 seasons, viewers welcomed them into their homes like they were their own relatives. The show's popularity was off the charts. After it ended in 1974, it went into reruns and became even more popular, playing on a loop for generations of kids. This popularity led to a merchandising empire. There were Brady Bunch lunchboxes, board games, dolls, comic books, and even hit records. The faces of those 6 kids were everywhere. The show and the studio that made it, Paramount, earned a gigantic fortune, easily hundreds of millions of dollars over the decades. So you would naturally assume that the 6 actors who played Greg, Marcia, Peter, Jan, Bobby, and Cindy became incredibly wealthy. Well, the thing nobody tells you is that they saw almost none of that money. Back in the late 60s and early 70s, the contracts for child actors were written entirely in the studio's favor. The kids were paid a simple weekly salary for the weeks they were filming. By the final season, this was about $1,100 a week, which comes out to around $7,500 in today's money. But that was all they ever got. They never received any extra money, known as residuals or royalties, for the thousands and thousands of times the show has been replayed all over the world. They also didn't get a single penny from the mountains of merchandise sold with their images on it. The studio kept everything, but the financial issues weren't the only dark secret. The happy-go-lucky vibe on set was often just for the cameras. Susan Olsen, who played Little Cindy, has talked about how some of the on-set pranks were far from innocent fun. She revealed that two of her TV brothers would often single her out with mean-spirited tricks that left her feeling hurt and bullied. Adding to the tension was the show's dad, Robert Reed, who played Mike Brady. He was a classically trained actor who secretly hated the show's goofy and unrealistic scripts. He would often get into huge arguments with the show's creator, Sherwood Schwartz, right on the set, sometimes refusing to say his lines. It's a sad realization that the perfect family harmony was often just another Hollywood illusion. From a show where the family was supposed to be a team, we now turn to a sitcom where one single character became so popular that it created a huge battle of egos behind the scenes. 4. Happy Days.
I'm gonna teach you the secret of being tough.
Wow, you don't think I could ever
Hey,
learn
who
that?
told you to talk?
I'm sorry, Fonz.
That's the secret.
Hey. With that one simple sound, a television legend was born. The character of Arthur the Fonz Fonzarelli from the sitcom Happy Days is one of the most iconic in history. With his black leather jacket, his perfectly combed hair, and his almost magical ability to make things work just by snapping his fingers, the Fonz was the definition of cool. He was played to perfection by the actor Henry Winkler. But here's the kicker: the Fonz was never, ever supposed to be the star of the show. When Happy Days premiered in 1974, it was designed as a sweet, nostalgic look at life in the 1950s, centered around the clean-cut teenager Richie Cunningham and his wholesome family. Richie was played by Ron Howard, who was already a well-known star from his time as Little Opie on The Andy Griffith Show. The Fonz was originally written as a very small side character, a local tough guy who might appear in an episode or two. But the moment Henry Winkler appeared on screen, something incredible happened. The studio audience went wild. The fan mail started pouring in, and it was all for the Fonz. The network executives and writers saw they had struck gold. They quickly began to give Fonzie more lines, more screen time, and more storylines. Before long, the show that was supposed to be about Richie Cunningham's life was almost entirely about Fonzie's adventures. This phenomenon, which became known as Fonzie Mania, created a huge amount of tension behind the scenes. What many overlooked is that Ron Howard, the show's original star, felt like he was being pushed aside. He was a talented actor and had dreams of becoming a movie director, and he was not happy about becoming a supporting character on his own show. The network even floated the idea of renaming the show Fonzie's Happy Days, which was a massive insult to the original cast. To put it mildly, the atmosphere on set became strained. In 1980, feeling that his character had nowhere left to go and wanting to pursue his directing career, Ron Howard made the difficult decision to leave the show. It was a huge blow, but Happy Days continued for 4 more seasons with Fonzie as the undisputed main character. Adding a final sour note, years later, several of the show's original cast members, including Ron Howard, had to sue the studio to get the merchandising royalties they were rightfully owed, proving that even in the world of Happy Days, business was still business. While egos were clashing on the set of Happy Days, the battle on another blockbuster show was about money and respect, which led to one of its biggest stars being completely shut out. 5. Three's Company.
Was that it? What? Well, you said you had a dream about me, Chrissy. Where do I come in?
Oh, well, I was on my way home to see you.
Three's Company was the king of silly feel-good television in the late 70s. The premise was simple but scandalous for its time. A young man named Jack Tripper needed a place to live, and he found the perfect apartment with two beautiful female roommates, Janet Wood and Chrissy Snow. The only catch was that the landlords, the Ropers, would never allow a single man to live with two single women. So Jack had to pretend that he was gay. This led to a constant stream of ridiculous misunderstandings, close calls, and brilliant physical comedy, mostly from the show's gifted star, John Ritter. But while John Ritter was the comedy engine of the show, it was the character of Chrissy Snow who became its breakout star. Played by Suzanne Summers, Chrissy was a delightful mix of sweet, naive, and clueless. With her trademark pigtails and infectious, snorting laugh, she was absolutely adored by the American public. Suzanne Summers became a massive celebrity, a true television icon. She was a huge part of why the show was consistently in the top 10. By the show's 5th season, Suzanne felt that her contribution to its massive success should be recognized in her paycheck. You see, she found out that John Ritter was being paid a whopping $150,000 for each episode, while she and the other female co-star were only making $30,000 per episode. Believing she was just as valuable to the show as its male star, she asked for a raise that would bring her pay up to the same level as his. In today's world, this would be seen as a reasonable fight for equal pay. But in 1980, the show's producers saw it as a betrayal. They were furious. Instead of negotiating with her, they decided to make an example of her. They refused her request and then found a cruel way to punish her. They legally had to pay her for her contract, but they could control how she appeared on the show. For the rest of the season, they reduced her role to a mere 60-second scene at the very end of each episode. The thing nobody tells you is that to isolate her completely, they made her film these scenes all by herself on a separate, empty soundstage. She would deliver her lines to a script supervisor, and her part would be edited into the show later. After that humiliating season, her contract was not renewed, and she was replaced. It was a cold and calculated move that left a dark stain on a light-hearted show. A star being pushed out is tough, but the story of our next sitcom child star is one of the most heartbreaking and cautionary tales in the history of Hollywood. 6 Different Strokes.
We did it! Did you bring the money? Tell my dad how much we won.
Arnold, I didn't bet on the race.
What you talk about, Manny?
What you talking about, Willis? With that one simple line, a tiny actor named Gary Coleman became the biggest child star in the world. His show, Different Strokes, was a ratings powerhouse throughout the late 70s and early 80s. The show had a sweet and progressive premise. A kind, wealthy white widower named Mr. Drummond adopts the 2 young black sons, Arnold and Willis, of his late housekeeper. The family was completed by Mr. Drummond's own biological daughter, the pretty and popular Kimberly Drummond, played by actress Dana Plato. On screen, Kimberly was the perfect older sister, smart, responsible, and always looking out for her 2 new brothers. But in the real world, Dana Plato's life was far from perfect. She had been working in commercials and television since she was a very young girl, and she never had a normal childhood. The constant pressure of being a teen idol was immense, and she began to look for ways to escape. She fell in with a fast crowd and developed some very dangerous habits to cope with her unhappiness. In 1984, during the show's 6th season, Dana's life took a turn that would end her television career. She announced that she was pregnant. For the producers of a show built on a wholesome, family-friendly image, this was a complete nightmare. They believed that having the character of Kimberly be an unwed, pregnant teenager would destroy the show's innocent reputation. So instead of trying to work her pregnancy into the storyline or find another solution, they simply fired her. Her character was hastily written out of the show with the flimsy explanation that she had decided to move to Paris to attend school. For Day Na, being cast out from the show that had been her home for years was a devastating blow that sent her into a deeper downward spiral. After Different Strokes ended, her life became a series of struggles. She found it nearly impossible to find acting work, and her personal battles continued, leading to several sad and public run-ins with the law. Tragically, in 1999, her story came to a heartbreaking conclusion when she passed away at the age of just 34 from an accidental overdose of prescription medication. Her sad tale is a major part of what many have called the Different Strokes curse, as both of her on-screen brothers, Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges, also faced incredible hardships and personal tragedies in their lives after the show's cameras stopped rolling. Day Plato was forced out for starting a family. On our next show, another famous actress walked away for the very same reason, but this time she was the one who drew a line in the sand. 7. Laverne and Shirley.
Watch. Let's just try to jump off these hooks. All right? Okay. I am up. Get set. Jump!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hasenpfeffer Incorporated. That nonsense chant, chanted by two best friends as they skipped down a Milwaukee street, is one of the most famous TV openings of all time. It belonged to Laverne and Shirley, a spin-off of Happy Days that became an even bigger hit than its parent show. The series followed the lives of two working-class best friends and roommates, the tough and cynical Laverne DeFizio and the idealistic and bubbly Shirley Feeney. Their incredible chemistry and hilarious physical comedy made them the most beloved duo on television. The show, starring Penny Marshall as Laverne and Cindy Williams as Shirley, was a ratings monster. For several seasons, it was the #1 most-watched show in America. They were on top of the world. But while their characters were the definition of inseparable best friends, the relationship between the two actresses behind the scenes was famously rocky. As the show's popularity exploded, so did the on-set tensions. There were constant reports of arguments, jealousy, and power struggles. To put it mildly, the fun and loving friendship you saw on screen was often a complete act. By the show's later seasons, the two stars who had once been close were reportedly not even speaking to each other when the cameras weren't rolling. The whole fragile situation finally shattered in 1982 during the filming of the show's 8th season. Cindy Williams, who was married to a movie producer, became pregnant with her first child. She went to the show's producers and asked for her work schedule to be lightened to accommodate her pregnancy. But according to Cindy, they refused. What many overlooked is that she claimed they were trying to make her working conditions so difficult that she would be forced to quit. She said they even scheduled her to work on the day she was due to give birth. Feeling that she was being disrespected and pushed out, Cindy Williams made a dramatic decision. She walked off the set one day and never returned. She later filed a massive $20 million lawsuit against the production company for her treatment. Just like that, Shirley Feeney was gone. The show scrambled to explain her absence, saying she had gotten married to an Army medic and moved overseas. The series limped on for one more season with just Laverne, but the magic was gone. It was a bitter end to a partnership that had brought so much laughter to the world. While one star fought for respect as a woman, a young actress on another popular show was quietly dealing with unfair treatment for a completely different reason: her race. 8. The Facts of Life.
Doctor prescribed some medication, and if I avoid excessive aggravation, I'll live. Unless I get hit by a truck.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. For 9 seasons, that theme song welcomed us into the world of the Eastland School for Girls. The show, a spin-off of Different Strokes, became a beloved classic of the 1980s. It revolved around 4 very different teenage girls learning about life under the guidance of their house mother, Mrs. Garrett. There was the rich and snobby Blair, the tough-as-nails Joe, the funny and creative Natalie, and the youngest of the group, the gossip-loving roller-skating Tootie. Tootie was played by a wonderfully talented young actress named Kim Fields. For most of the show's long run, she was the only black lead character. On screen, the 4 girls were portrayed as the ultimate group of friends. They came from completely different worlds, but they always had each other's backs, teaching a generation of viewers about friendship and acceptance. But in recent years, Kim Fields has started to open up about her real experience on the show, and it wasn't always as harmonious as it looked. She has spoken about the feeling of isolation that came with being the only black girl in the main cast, and the subtle but persistent ways she was treated differently. These are now often called racial microaggressions. For instance, she has said that the show's all-white writing team often had no idea how to write authentic dialogue for a young black girl, leaving her feeling like a caricature. The thing nobody tells you is that this difference in treatment extended to the wardrobe department. She has described how her character, Tootie, was often dressed in outfits that were less stylish or flattering than those of her white co-stars, reinforcing a kind of cutesy image long after she had grown out of it. She also had to endure constant jokes about her braces, which she had to wear for several seasons, and jokes about her weight, which were particularly hurtful for a teenager growing up in the harsh spotlight of Hollywood. It's a sad revelation that on a show that preached lessons about togetherness, one of its young stars was being made to feel like an outsider. Dealing with hidden struggles is incredibly tough. But our next star was hiding an enormous secret about his health, a secret he believed would end his career in an instant if anyone ever found out. 9. Family Ties.
It is nice to meet you finally. I've heard an awful lot about you.
Hey.
In the 1980s, you couldn't turn on a TV or go to a movie theater without seeing Michael J. Fox. He was, without a doubt, one of the biggest stars on the planet. His fame exploded thanks to his role as Alex P. Keaton on the massively popular sitcom Family Ties. The show was a clever look at the changing times, focusing on a couple of liberal, ex-hippie parents and their surprisingly conservative, money-obsessed teenage son, Alex. Michael J. Fox's portrayal of Alex was a comedy masterclass. His fast-talking delivery, sharp timing, and incredible energy made him a household name and won him 3 Emmy Awards. His TV success catapulted him to movie stardom in the iconic blockbuster Back to the Future. He was flying higher than anyone could imagine, but behind the charming smile and the whirlwind of activity, he was hiding a terrifying and life-altering secret. In 1991, shortly after Family Ties had finished its 7-season run, Michael J. Fox was diagnosed with young-onset Parkinson's disease. He was only 29 years old. Parkinson's is a cruel disease that attacks the nervous system, leading to tremors, stiffness, and a loss of control over one's body. For an actor whose career was built on his physical presence and energetic comedy, it was a devastating diagnosis. He was absolutely convinced that if word got out, his career would be over in a heartbeat. He believed no one would hire an actor who couldn't fully control his own body. So he made the decision to tell only a handful of trusted people and hide his condition from the world. For the next 7 years, he lived a double life. He continued to star in movies and even launched another successful sitcom, Spin City. What many overlooked is the incredible effort it took to keep his secret. He would carefully time his medication to be at its most effective during filming. He developed clever tricks to hide the tremor in his left hand, which was his most noticeable symptom. He would constantly be in motion, hold a prop, or simply keep his hand stuffed in his pocket. It's truly astonishing to go back and watch his work from that period, knowing the immense silent battle he was waging every single moment. He finally shared his diagnosis with the public in 1998 and has since become one of the world's leading advocates and fundraisers for Parkinson's research. Michael J. Fox hid his struggles to protect his career. On our final show, the lead actor's personal struggles were much less of a secret, and they sometimes created a very tense atmosphere right on the set. 10. Who's the boss?
They told me Samantha had a nightmare, so I came in here to comfort her.
Well, she's in my bed.
Well, I didn't know that. I mean,
Don't you think that my lump is different than hers?
I'm gonna pass on that one.
The 1980s were full of sitcoms with unique family setups, and Who's the Boss had one of the most charming. The show's premise was a classic role reversal. Tony Danza, a former professional boxer in real life, starred as Tony Miceli, a retired baseball player and single dad from a tough Brooklyn neighborhood. Looking for a better life for his daughter, he takes a job as a live-in housekeeper for a wealthy, divorced advertising executive named Angela Bauer in upscale Connecticut. The show was a ratings juggernaut for 8 seasons, beloved for its witty writing, its warm heart, and the slow burn will they or won't they romance between Tony and Angela. Tony Danza was perfect as the lovable tough guy with a heart of gold. His character was patient, kind, and always ready with a piece of down-to-earth advice. But according to numerous reports from people who worked on the show, his off-screen personality could be quite different. Several writers and crew members have claimed over the years that Danza had a very short temper. They said he was fiercely protective of his character and would often get into loud, heated arguments with the writing staff if he disagreed with a line or a storyline. To put it mildly, the calm and happy household viewers saw on their screens was sometimes a high-stress and confrontational workplace. Another dark issue that has come to light in the years since the show ended involves the treatment of its youngest star, Danny Pintaro, who played Angela's son, Jonathan. Growing up on a top-rated television show is an incredibly unnatural and high-pressure way to spend one's childhood. It has since been reported that the production often skirted the edges of child labor laws. The thing nobody tells you is that Danny was allegedly required to work longer and more strenuous hours than were legally permitted for a child his age. This intense work schedule, combined with the loss of a normal childhood, contributed to the significant personal challenges he faced after the show ended. It serves as a stark and sobering reminder that even on the most light-hearted and family-friendly sitcoms, the demanding business of making television can leave behind some very real and lasting scars.